Springfield's Talk 104.1. Hello and a good Monday morning, everyone. Welcome to the show. You know what Friday is?
What's Friday?
It's Heroes Breakfast.
Oh my goodness, how did that happen?
I don't know. I remember because the Friday before last, when I was letting the gals there know that I would not be there the following Friday because I was going to be on vacation, she goes, "Now, is that a Heroes Breakfast?" I said, "No, it's the next one because the 31st is right Friday." So we will be having a Heroes Breakfast at Scramblers Friday as we broadcast live, 6 to 9. And that, of course, as always, our consistent partners, big thank you to them: Air Services, Heating, Cooling, Plumbing, Electrical, Delta Roofing, the Warrior's Journey, and Scramblers, making all of that possible. All right, a lot of stuff that has been happening. The Democrat Party is on a number of different fronts demonstrating it is in trouble. You hear about the wounded animal and how others in the pack will oftentimes turn on the wounded animal and just destroy it. And that is what is playing out with the Democrat Party right now. The Democrat Party is, in terms of leadership, it is rudderless. It is a wounded animal. And the wolves that want to be the new pack leaders, they are on attack, and that's the socialist / communist, which officially go by DSA, though they fully acknowledge communism is their goal. And the way that the left deals with terrorists is the way that they are dealing with the socialist communists taking over their party, and that is to pretend like it's not happening. You know, what they say their stated goals aren't really their stated goals when it comes to terrorism. And we see this to the point that it becomes laughable. A terrorist will, scream out Allah Akbar, that they as clearly as possible verbally relay why it is they're doing what they're doing. And then what does the left say? Well, that's not why they did it. No, we can't draw any conclusions. We can't say that it's because of their religion, even though you almost wonder if there's a degree of frustration among the terrorists when dealing with some of these people that constantly cover up for them and apologize for them, because they're like, how much more clear can we make it? We make videos, we recruit, we do it all in the name of Islam. We scream out Allah Akbar right before we do it. The Pulse nightclub shooter in Florida called local, or at least one local television station, while he was carrying out the task of murdering as many people in that nightclub, explaining he was doing it in the name of Islam and to get back at the United States for its policies in the Middle East. And what did you have the Obama administration do? Say it was because it was an LGBTQ club. Paint it as somebody in America, because America is so homophobic, targeting homosexuals. And, that guy was even on the phone with news outlets explaining why he did it, and Democrats still cover up for him, cover up for the motives. And you see these Democrat socialists that are openly saying, oh, yeah, we're taking over this party. That are openly saying, we've got audio of one of the co-chairs, and it's making the rounds because she's asked point blank. All right, so here's some of the things that supposedly you all support. Like abolishing the Senate. Yep, sure do. Getting rid of the Supreme Court. Yep, sure do. Releasing all prisoners from prisons. Yep, that's what we're going to do. And the Democrats are like, oh, no, none of that's actually going on. Apparently, they are so also financially in the hole, the Democratic National Committee, that they are leveraging their headquarters to take out a loan. They have asked their vendors to stop billing them for services and products rendered until after the midterm elections because they have no money. They've announced on Friday that they are going to put South Carolina once again first in the primary. So this signals the DNC has decided they want Kamala Harris to be the nominee. Because as we know, the Democrats, they do not believe in free and fair elections. And by free and fair, I mean you set up an election and then you have the candidates put out their best argument, and then the people come and they vote for the individual that they want to be in that elected position, and you make sure that only people who are legally allowed to vote actually vote. They don't support that. It's all about rigging things, all about changing the dates in order to increase the likelihood that the candidate of your choice is going to win. Now, and this is going to cause a problem once again with New Hampshire, because state law in New Hampshire dictates that they have to be the first state in order to participate in the primary caucus selection process. It's going to cause a number of different issues, and it did with New Hampshire last time around as well. So they're already, while you've got the Democrat socialists that are fully acknowledging and announcing their plans, a Democrat Party that is, we're all just a big tent, except for Jews, of course, and they've hemorrhaged money. They're $2 million in the hole, while the Republicans are rolling in cash, and they are already fixing the calendar in order to predetermine who the candidate's going to be. And I genuinely don't know why at this point, given how financially broke they are, they're even going to have a primary caucus process. We have seen with the previous presidential selection or candidate selection nomination process by the Democrats and what happened in Maine with Graham Plattner, that the elections, at least when it comes to Democrats holding their own elections, it's all theatrics. Because if Democrats don't choose right, or even if they do choose right, but as time goes on, it turns out they chose wrong, then the Democrat Party just says, you know what, we're going to go ahead and pick the person for you. You think of all the money they're going to spend, when in the end, they're going to be the ones that pick the candidate anyhow. Why not just save all that money in order to use it in the general election? The Pyramid Roofing Company text line 447 KSGF. Latest news update.
And the first alert forecast from Ozarks First meteorologist Tom Schmidt, sponsored by St. Clair of the Ozarks Home Improvements. An extreme heat warning is in effect from now until Tuesday morning. A heat advisory remains in effect until Tuesday night. Today we'll see sunny skies with a high near 99, heat index values as high as 107. Tonight mostly clear with a low around 76. For your Tuesday, mostly sunny with a high near 98 and heat index values as high as 106. And for Wednesday, partly sunny with a high near 93.
Springfield's Talk 1041. Welcome to the show, streaming live. Oh, I want to thank everyone who filled in last week also.
They did a
of
great
course,
job,
yeah.
as always.
Yes, and you doing all the extra stuff you have to do, and largely just go through a day without my presence. And I know
honestly,
it's got to make it pretty tough.
I did tell some coworkers that I did kind of miss my work best friend. It's about Wednesday where I was like,
You think I'm ready for him to come back?
he gets on my nerves, but I do kind of like the guy.
For the first time I had been to the Momentary venue. It's the outdoor concert venue by Crystal Bridges, or it's all part of them. It was a great venue. It was so like miserably hot. When we got there, the temperature in the car said 105 degrees, and then my wife realized, because we had not been to the venue, and it's like you sit on the ground. You can't bring chairs. You have to sit on the ground or stand. And so she was like, "This, I don't know how long we're going to stay for this." And it's Lord Huron. It's one of her favorite bands, not mine. So I'm like, I don't care. Well, and then Jennifer, who works at Game Day Men's Health, I had told her last Thursday we were going, and she said, "Oh, my uncle has a restaurant called Yayo's, Yeyo. I think that's what it's called." And she goes, "It's like right there, shares a parking lot. It's so good." She goes, "It's authentic Mexican food." She goes, so we went to that, and it was fantastic, incredible. And our Airbnb was walking distance. It was 5 blocks away.
Oh, that sounds nice.
Which I had paid for parking because I didn't know at the time. I got the tickets back in January, and I got the Airbnb after that. And we went ahead and drove anyway because I paid for the parking, and it was 105 degrees out. Well, we waited until the music started at 7:30, opening act, so we decided we'll get there at 8:30. And we got there just 10 minutes before Lord Huron took stage. The sun had gone down, and it felt like it was fall because I'm sure it was still in the upper 80s, but because it had been over 100 degrees. And so I have this habit when we go to concerts, I just look for really good tickets. And, of course, I didn't know where they were, and it was a section actually off the stage left, and they did have seating, and they had like food and stuff that was catered, so it was, it's like it was the little VIP area. And so we did get to sit after all, and it was really nice. And so if you've not been there for a performance, I think it's a great venue. And let me tell you, I'm not a huge concert goer. All of the workers there were so friendly.
Oh,
like as
good.
you're leaving, they're thanking you they're like, "Thank you for coming to the performance." I mean, they just were genuinely nice. And you don't normally get that at concerts, at least the ones I've been to. There may be the obligatory "thanks for coming," but it was just really, really nice. And so it was a nice time.
It's like a good vacation.
Yeah, and then just briefly, the other thing that actually turned out to be, you're going to laugh about this, because what are the 2 events I hate more than anything?
Weddings and funerals.
Yeah, because they're boring. Well, this gal that used to work for my wife, and they've maintained a friendship, she and her now husband, they got married in Alaska but wanted to have a reception here. And so it was out in Highlandville at this biking trail venue, and this was on Saturday, so it was like 100 and some degrees. It was outdoor, indoor. It had infrastructure, but with no air conditioning, so no airflow also. I mean, it was, I soaked through my undershirt, my shirt. It was temperature-wise miserable, but it was one of the most fun events I've been to in a really long time. They did such a great job with it. They, like, for their wedding cake, because they had it catered, it was beautifully done, and it was all fun. And for the wedding cake, what they did is, and they're a younger couple, I'd say early 20s, maybe mid-20s. They had 3 sheet cakes they were just plain, and they put on gloves. They got a huge bucket of icing, and with their fistfuls started throwing icing and smearing it on, and then opened giant things of berries and just poured it on, and then started cutting cake for people. It was just
one way to do it.
Yeah, and it was just a lot of fun. So, and I told my wife, I said, this is actually the most, as miserable as the temperature was, And then they had an open bar that helped. But I said, this is actually the most fun that I've had this vacation. And I realized it was a reception. There wasn't the wedding thing, but they did some speeches and everything. But anyhow, so
It's still
yeah.
surprising for you.
I know. It was very surprising. So it was a wonderful time. Anyway, that was what I did. I normally don't really talk
Well,
because I don't do a lot of
glad you're
engagement.
back,
Yeah,
though.
thank you. Okay, so this week we're gonna have a number of candidates on. Um, I picked races that are more high profile in terms of a lot of campaigning activity. I think, at least for me, I'm in the Curtis Trent Senate District, so those of you who are also in that district know it because every day your mailbox is filled with flyers for or against Curtis Trent and then for or against Lori Rook. And so we're going to this week have those individuals on. Curtis Trent is scheduled for 7 to 7:30 today. Is that right?
I believe so.
I think that's the
Yes.
time frame because we'll have to contact Congressman Burleson and see if he can go 7:30 to 8. And also, and we'll tell you these will be put up in podcast form as well. He will be the candidate today. Now, throughout the week, again, we will also have Lori Rook at some point, and then the Jamie Gregg and Angela Romine race. That is another one that has a lot of activity, and it's right here in the area as well. And so we're going to have those two candidates on as well. Do we know what the status is with Tomorrow and the Vitae Foundation?
Yes. Yep.
Okay.
They will be there at 7 a.m.
Okay.
Brandy.
Okay. All right. Fantastic. I ask that because they've had some leadership changes for good reasons. And so I just didn't know what the update was on that. Okay.
I
Very
had a
good.
conversation last week.
Excellent. Good to hear. All right. Coming up, the DSA co-chair confirming everything that they plan on doing as they take over the Democrat Party. Get rid of the borders, let prisoners out of prisons roam the streets, abolish the Senate, get rid of the Supreme Court and the presidency in its current form. And I'll give them this. The Democrat Party is being taken over by people who are no longer lying about what they want to do. With the Democrat Party, they've long, like with Obamacare, we know what the real goal was. It was to destroy our healthcare system so that it is completely run by government. But they masquerade it as Obamacare, and that's going to fix everything. And so it's a bait and switch situation. The DSA, they apparently don't have time for such shenanigans. They're just straight up, hey, this is how we're going to destroy the country, so vote for us. And it seems to be working. Including a recent poll that show a majority of Democrats now support this. So this is where the Democrat Party is today. Streaming live, KSGF.com. All right, let's play a little bit of audio. This is... I mean, on the surface, it doesn't seem to give the Democrat Party any headaches because they're like, hey, it's totally cool. We're a big tent, except for Jews. Other than Jews, tent's real big. And other than pro-life people or Second Amendment people or freedom of speech people or people that want to protect girls in sports from men competing against them, people that don't want forced vaccinations. I mean, other than some of those people, huge tent, everyone's welcome. And they are that is their go-to response when asked about the new generation of Democrats increasingly winning seats. And let me tell you, I was listening to Harold Ford Jr. talking about how the party needs to get away from these people. The party needs to get away from these positions. And it's the people like, of course, Harold Ford Jr., who represented Tennessee for years, has been out of Congress for years. But that style of Democrat, they're the ones losing to the DSA. New York saw a long-time Democrat who was very anti-Trump. Of course, he was a Jew, so that was the death knell for him, lose to one of these people out in Colorado. The nut job Democrat socialist who beat the Democrat out there, it wasn't an open seat. It was, I think, 30 years that congresswoman had been there. And so the standard, what would be considered more reasonable Democrats, I mean, Fetterman clearly has a target on his back. They fully said that. They are losing seats to these people. That's the definition of these people are the new direction of the Democrat Party. So they can all they want act as if these are just some crazy extreme ideas by just a few individuals, but they are gaining while you are losing. Shannon Bream going down the checklist of some of what the DSA has said they support, just to sort of fact check with a co-chair of the Democrat Socialist of America.
Okay, so we're going to put up on the screen a few of the things that are part of your platform, and I want to ask you, just give me sort of a true or false on these. Abolish the Senate.
True.
Okay, replace the presidency and Supreme Court as we now know them.
Yep.
Abolish ICE.
Absolutely.
Abolish borders and give amnesty to anyone currently in the U.S. illegally.
As a long-term plan, yep.
Defund the Pentagon.
Absolutely.
Abolish prisons, at least in large part.
Yeah, again, that as part of a long-term program, yeah.
Okay, so no prisons. Government or public ownership of most large corporations.
Yeah, absolutely.
Now, the last one is somewhat humorous because we already have, public ownership of companies that want to go public. It's called going public. That's what the stock market is. That's not what they actually want. They portray it as the people should own the companies. People are allowed to own companies. What they mean is government take it over in the name of the people. And then you get whatever it is that they sprinkle around for you. But that aside, I just can't stress this enough. If this was one or two radical individuals that won in some open seat in some sort of crazy fluke situation, that would be different. The momentum is on their side within the Democrat Party. It is not on the side of the Hakeem Jeffries. It is not on the side of the Chuck Schumers. It is not on the side of the Fetterman. And Fetterman isn't even really grouped in with those individuals because he is just the last holdout of an honest, reasonable person in the Democrat Party. But point being is the idea that this isn't a growing cancer within the Democrat Party is preposterous. And, there's been all this discussion about why it is that it's gaining popularity, why it is. I want to explain that because it oftentimes gets presented as young people who are disgruntled just of the economy overall. And because things aren't going well for them, this is the direction they're going. And that doesn't quite answer it. So I want to talk about that coming up, and the fact that new polling amongst Democrats, a majority favor these positions. This is what they favor. They are backing the Socialist Party. And for a lot of us who have said this for years and years and years, that this is the direction things were going, there is somewhat of a just validation, I guess, and some appreciation that they're at least acknowledging now instead of being in denial. It's funny how some of us knew what Democrats wanted before the Democrats apparently knew or would admit what they wanted.
Springfield's Talk 1041, the first alert forecast from Ozarks First, meteorologist Tom Schmidt, sponsored by J&S Automotive. An extreme heat warning is in effect from now until Tuesday morning, and a heat advisory remains in effect until Tuesday night. Today we'll see sunny skies with a high near 99, heat index values as high as 107. Tonight mostly clear with a low around 76. For your Tuesday, mostly sunny with a high near 98. Heat index values as high as 106. And for Wednesday, partly sunny with a high near 93.
Ozark Empire Fair coming. You could win the Ultimate Fair Package, tickets to every grandstand show, plus meet and greet Sawyer Brown, 4-pack to the Kids Monster Truck Challenge before the Outlaw Monster Trucks. Register now at ksgf.com. And Who knows how hot it will be? Maybe we're getting the heat wave out of the way. I saw a high of 70 something later in the. I know you just said the weather, but I wasn't listening. Did you get to that? I think maybe it was this Saturday or something. A high of 70 something.
Oh, but I did not get that far yet. Yeah, the next couple days it's going to be in the upper 90s.
Yeah, I know it's miserable. Let's see.
Yeah, Saturday 79.
Right. Yeah.
That's not bad.
And 81 on Sunday. 80. So
It's like fall.
it is just like fall. Almost winter time. As the Democrat Socialists take over the Democrat Party, and there's been this attempt at times to evaluate and understand why it is that more people are being drawn towards socialism. Now, if you notice, it's not necessarily more Americans. It's really, the vast majority, it's coming from the Democrat Party. In fact, a new poll shows, this is a Fox News poll, among Democrats, a majority have a favorable view of socialism, which, of course, shows you that they have no concept of history or current events. Can you imagine having a favorable view of such an old, antiquated idea that has failed over and over and over again? It shows how ignorant these people are. 52% of Democrats held a favorable view of socialism. Only 43% held an unfavorable view. So it's a majority. This has been explained away, or I shouldn't say explained away, but just hypothesized that it's because increasingly young people are frustrated because of the economy and the inability to, buy a home and all of these different things. Well, we've gone through these cycles in our country before, yet we did not have a majority of a political party say socialism is the answer. So this isn't a response to the situation itself in America in terms of economic conditions. It is a response to a belief system that government is the one that can make the best system possible for a society. Once you believe that, and, if that's your belief system of the two political parties, you are going to be in the Democrat Party. Well, when you're told by a party that you adhere to that, hey, government is the answer, and we're the party that can do it, and they fail to provide you these results, then you want new blood. And they've sold you on the idea that Republicans aren't the answer. Clearly, there's they only make things worse. And so they have been brainwashed into believing that smaller government, less regulation, lower taxes are a really, really bad thing, that capitalism is bad. So there's only one political party for them to reside in, that's the Democrat Party. And the Democrat Party, look at everywhere they run. Every place that they run, the conditions are even worse. Every area that Democrats have generational control over are areas that have worse education. They have a larger income gap. They have greater affordability issues. Crime is a much bigger problem than in areas run by Republicans. And so the party that they've been told is the only party that has the answers is failing them. And so you have these socialists come along and say, well, it's because they're not doing enough. This isn't so much, it is birthed out of this anger at the fact that they don't have some sort of lifestyle that they feel they, quote, deserve, because there is an entitlement sense there. But it's because the one party that they have been told is the only party that can provide the answers has been failing them miserably and making things worse for them. And so that leaves those individuals looking for new leadership, and the new leadership are the more extreme left individuals. And so that's why within the Democrat Party, you have this cancer that is growing to a majority of Democrats who refuse to believe that Republicans have the answers. It has to be Democrats, but the Democrats aren't doing it, so that means we need new leadership. And here you have these really loud, angry people that come along that scream and yell, which satisfies the internal anger of so many of these Democrats, and they tell them, we have the answers. It's punish the rich. It's pitting Americans against Americans. I mean, that is the go-to for socialism, is pitting citizens against citizens. Pointing to people who have earned the things that the entitled people feel that they should have, and saying that the people who have actually created and earned those things are the problem, so we need to punish them. And for entitled people, that's a very satisfying message. The Republican Party has a hand in this because, unfortunately, the Republican Party is being run by people who aren't offering the full alternative of less government. They are offering less more government. In other words, well, and I mean, in terms of spending, more government than Democrats. I mean, the deficit has exploded, continued to explode under Republican spending. And so there really is no longer this alternative party to say, oh, this is what happens when you actually shrink government. This is what happens when you actually, and I'm talking on a national level, this is what happens when you reduce spending. This is what happens when you cut down on the debt and the deficit. There isn't a national example of that any longer. There is a national example of a political party doing less damage than the Democrat Party because it has historically accelerated the growth of government and spending less. And Trump has, when it comes to the federal government, actually slashed it down to levels that it hasn't seen in terms of employees. I think it's either in the 50s or the 60s. I think it was the 50s. But spending and the scope, all of these things are, in particularly spending, are still massive problems. Now, there are pockets of the Republican Party that do show the difference in a government approach of running your lives and deciding how economies should run and how you should live your lives versus the alternative of no government's not the answer, but that's on a state level. You get the New York versus Texas, the California versus Florida. And so that is a demonstration of it. But unfortunately, on a national level, that does have such an impact on us, you have no clear demonstration of a massive difference in outcomes that will take a certain portion of the American people and go, well, this is clearly much better. There's interesting, and we're going to get to this later, Texas. There's been it's based off of, I think, IRS data, that while there have been, obviously, Florida being one of them, Tennessee, South Carolina, or North Carolina. I always get the two mixed up in terms of economic progress, but how people flee to those states. But when it comes to the overall economy, and an economy that is pumping along in terms of actual results, Texas is the winner. And this is somewhat appropriate given a vote that many of you will be going to the polls for next week. One of the contributing factors is the fact that they have no income tax. But we'll get to that coming up. Springfield's Talk 104.1. I'm Nick Reed. Sarah Myers, everyone.
Thank you. Foreman Mechanical Heating and Air. It is going to be incredibly hot over the next couple of days, and that is the time you don't want your AC to fail you. But that is often when it happens because your AC is running constantly. Now, if you have AC issues over the next couple of days, I want to recommend my go-to guys, and that would be Russell and his team over at Foreman Mechanical Heating and Air. And I really want to highlight their 24/7 emergency service line because it seems like breakdowns, they always happen after hours or on the weekend. And that's why the Foreman team offers that service line. So if you come home this evening and you're just greeted with a hot house, remember that service line. You can find all of the contact information for Foreman Mechanical Heating and Air under the Sarah's Endorsements tab at ksgf.com.
All right, I'm going to go ahead and move this up to talk about now because I referenced it in the conversation about on a national level, the Republicans don't really, I mean, I guess it's all relative. Perhaps you could argue smaller government compared to Democrats, but not smaller government compared to yesterday. But you do see it on a state level, state by state level. So you can compare policies of government is the answer versus government's not the answer by looking at a California versus Texas. The latest IRS migration data show billions of dollars in taxpayer wealth flowing into Texas, while census figures show the state's largest metropolitan areas continue to outpace much of the country in population growth, strengthening a decades-long shift in America's economic center of gravity. What's more, Texas isn't relying on a single boomtown. Dallas-Fort Worth added more residents than any other metropolitan area in the country over the past year, while Houston, Austin, and San Antonio also ranked among the nation's fastest-growing metros. That unusual breadth gives Texas multiple engines of economic growth, providing businesses with large labor pools, diversified industries, and a broader customer base than states anchored by a single dominant city. The population boom has been accompanied by an influx of wealth. This is so perfect as states like Washington, well, specifically the city of Seattle with the socialist mayor there saying good riddance to all you wealthy people, and Hochul in New York saying don't let the door hit you on the way out when you leave. One of the reasons that Texas is becoming the economic boom that it is leading the country is because of wealthy people. And guess what that does? That benefits all economic classes. IRS migration data analyzed by the Tax Foundation show the Lone Star State gained more than $5 billion in adjusted gross income from interstate movers, while California and New York recorded multi-billion-dollar losses. That's what happens when you don't have any, or you have less rich people. Those evil rich people. Don't want those folks around, do we? Texas Association of Business Chief Policy Officer Gabriel von Zur Mullen said capital follows where there is confidence. And right now there is a tremendous amount of confidence in Texas. Von Zur Mullen said Texas's tax structure and predictable regulatory environment continue to attract businesses and investments from other states, helping reinforce the state's economic momentum. While Florida attracted the nation's largest influx of taxpayer wealth and South Carolina posted the strongest inbound migration rate, Texas stood out by combining billions in new taxable income with rapid growth access. Dallas-Fort Worth, Houston, Austin, and San Antonio, or across those metropolitan areas. Economists say the combination matters because higher income households bring spending, investment, entrepreneurship, and tax revenue that can accelerate job creation, fuel commercial development, and attract even more businesses. Over time, those forces can transform fast-growing metros into some of the nation's most influential economic hubs. By the way, this is once upon a time what helped make the United States of America the economic powerhouse of the world. While those on the left love to say this was a nation built on immigrants, they weren't the sort of immigrants that we talk about today. Though we clearly, and generally these are those who come here legally, do find immigrants that want to come here for the right reasons, and that is to be productive members of society. But the tens of millions of illegals that are welcome into this country, those aren't individuals coming here because of entrepreneurial opportunities. That's what helped build the country and make it, and that's why people were drawn here, is because as a nation compared to others, that was part of our strength. Unlike simple population counts, adjusted gross income offers a glimpse into the economic resources newcomers bring with them. Higher income households can contribute disproportionately to consumer spending, investment, local tax collection. Now, again, this is all an argument for Amendment 5, that the wealthy that are drawn, they spend more, which means they're paying more in taxes, carrying more of the sales tax burden. Earlier federal estimates show Texas wasn't just adding residents, it was becoming wealthier on a per-person basis. Despite adding roughly 419,000 residents in 2025, more than any other state, Texas's economic output climbed to about $2.9 trillion, while per capita GDP continued to rise, suggesting the state's economy was becoming more productive rather than simply larger. Business leaders say those trends are creating a self-reinforcing cycle. And more workers and higher income households relocate to Texas, or as they do, companies gain access to a larger labor pool and customer base, encouraging additional hiring, investment, and expansion. That growth in turn creates more jobs, more opportunities that can attract even more residents. So what I may be reiterating here, but it's not just adding more people. Everything is growing and expanding. The migration has coincided with years of corporation relocation, business investment across the state, particularly with technology, finance, and manufacturing and energy. Supporters of Texas's economic model note that its lack of a state income tax, relatively affordable cost of living, and business-friendly climate continues attracting both employees and workers, reinforcing the state's long-term growth. The first on that list, lack of state income tax. Springfield's Talk 1041, I'm Nick Reed. Heroes Breakfast coming up on Friday at Scramblers. You're a veteran. Be sure to join us. We broadcast live 6 to 9. Free breakfast for you. Springfield's Talk 1041. Speaking of Ozark Empire Fair, the ultimate fair package could be yours. Win tickets to every grandstand show, plus meet and greet to Sawyer Brown, 4-pack to Kids Monster Truck Challenge before the Outlaw Monster Trucks. You can register now at ksgf.com. I want a great homeloan.com. You got home loan needs. You got the characters in the team. You have their cell phone numbers, not generally something you find with the people handling your home loans. And these aren't cell phone numbers that are work numbers that only get answered Monday through Friday, 8 to 5 or 9 to 5. You can get a hold of them on weekends. One of my favorite reviews was from a guy. He posted it online that they had not gone through the process, but he and his wife stumbled across their, quote, dream home. And he said, of course, it was a Saturday. And he reached out, and they were able to get that pre-approval through before the open house even occurred, and that home is now theirs. That's not what you traditionally get when it comes to the home loan process, but it is what you get with the characters in their team. Whether it is home loan, first time, 80th time, refinancing, or reverse mortgage, I want a great homeloan.com. Because you do. All right, this week we are going to be talking with a number of candidates, and the first one's going to be coming up here in just a bit. Normally, Congressman Burleson is with us. We're going to, if possible, we're going to have him on after about 7:30 or so. State Senator Curtis Trent, whom many of you know, he is going to be joining us here in just a couple of moments as he is up for re-election. We have sample ballots sponsored by Brad Pistole, host of Safe Money Radio at ksgf.com. If you are in, a lot of times people don't know exactly who their state rep is or who their state senator is. Like, I'm not really sure. You will know if you are in his district because of the mailers that have been going out every day. I know if you're like me, you've been getting them as I am in his district. And so we'll talk about his reelection run coming up. And then the person challenging him, Lori Rooks, she'll be on later in the week. And of course, we'll have these up in podcast form. Will these reside in the election section?
Yes,
okay.
They will be in both the podcast and the election section.
All right, so there you have it. Latest news update.
And the first alert forecast from Ozarks First meteorologist Tom Schmidt, sponsored by St. Clair of the Ozarks Home Improvements. An extreme heat warning is in effect from now until Tuesday morning. A heat advisory remains in effect until Tuesday night. Today we'll see sunny skies with a high near 99, heat index values as high as 107. Tonight mostly clear with a low around 76. For your Tuesday, mostly sunny with a high near 98 and heat index values as high as 106. And for Wednesday, partly sunny with a high near 93.
Sample ballots, sponsored by Brad Pistole, host of Safe Money Radio at KSGF.com. They're on the main slider, and it doesn't auto-rotate, but you can click past those that aren't of interest to you. There's a number of contesting things, and I think a promotion of our Heroes Breakfast coming up Friday. Incidentally, Cam had last week said there were 3 rooms left, but I talked to someone who has gone in the past, and I was like, have you guys signed up? And he said, no, we're going to. I said, there's only 3 rooms. He said, there are only 3 left. I said, yeah. He goes, okay, we're called today. So there should just be 2 left, or if that, for our Great Escape, sponsored by HVAC Masters. Huge thank you to them. And it's all the details, including how to get signed up, are at ksgf.com. If you live in the Senate district that is currently occupied by Curtis Trent, who is running for re-election, you know it unless you just don't ever check your mail because of all the flyers. Of course, you can be outside of the district, see TV ads and get streaming ads and so forth. But that's a real tip-off that you're in that district. And so this week we're talking with a number of candidates that are running and that are going to be on the ballot next Tuesday, Curtis Trent being one of those, of course, and want to thank you for being in studio with us this morning. And
yeah, great to be here.
Just, I guess give your pitch. People, there may be some people that are relatively new that don't know you, that are just starting to learn about these things or move to the area. So, this is, and it's how I'm going to treat all of these, as the conversation goes on, maybe some specific questions, but pretty much it's just your time to talk to the voters and maybe respond to, obviously, what flyers are out there. So you just go with it.
Well, I'm one of those guys that's almost living under a rock because I'm so busy. I'm not really having time to sort through all my mail every day, which ironically, the mail is almost entirely a product of these third-party groups. You probably remember back in 2016, there was an ballot issue to get money out of politics. And so they capped the amount of money that could go to campaigns, but they left this PAC loophole. And so now all the money flows into the PACs, which the candidates can't control, and the end result is our mailboxes are full of mail.
Well, and I imagine there would be some level of frustration. If I'm running, I would want complete and total control over my messaging.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
And a lot of times I'm sure that those third parties are going to sort of mimic whatever it is that the campaign is wanting in terms of messaging. But then there are always those that just think, I'm sure, well, they just aren't hitting hard enough, and so we're going to do this. And you're like, oh, boy, there's got to be some frustration. Because it's not even legal, right, for you to communicate and to
there's
coordinate.
No coordination at all. Yeah, so it's it can be frustrating. Of course, they're always they're well intended on both sides. They're trying to help their respective candidates. But it's confusing for the public because the public thinks that everything they get that's campaign related is all from the same source, and so they're attributing that to the individual candidates. But no, so much ink, so many words have been spilled over this campaign. Just a veritable tsunami of words have been put out there. Which is why I always tell folks that you want to make your decision based on actions. I think actions are the only thing that can really cut through the who's right, who's wrong of words. And so I try to emphasize my record as I go around and talk to folks at the door, talk to folks at parades and fairs. And a real good example of this. So you probably remember the Second Amendment Preservation Act when it was going through, I want to say 2022. I think was the year that was going through. And if you'll recall, that, or maybe it was 2020, maybe it was 2021, I can't remember now. But anyway, it was one of those 2 years, either 21 or 22. And if you'll recall, that bill always went to the General Laws Committee in the House. And you had a General Laws chairman for several years who was not very favorable to that bill, and would keep delaying and would keep dragging their feet. And they never said they were opposed to it.
Will you just briefly explain what it is for people who don't know what the Second Amendment Preservation Act does?
Oh, sure. It's an anti-commandeering law. What it does is it says that if the federal government passes an unconstitutional gun bill, that the state is not going to use state resources to enforce that. Obviously there's a supremacy clause. The federal government, can kind of do what it wants, so to speak, at least until the courts, figure out what's constitutional and what isn't. But Missouri doesn't have to use its resources.
Right. We don't have to
It's
financially help,
it's taxpayer dollars. Like, it doesn't have to use its resources to aid in that enforcement effort. This was a bill that I believe was originally created by Congressman Burleson, and he championed it for many years. And so, I was always very supportive of that, and it had always languished. And this is how they kill stuff in Jefferson City. They don't come out and say, I'm opposed to it. They just takes a few weeks for it to move through committee. It just, takes a little while to get a vote. It just doesn't quite move that fast. So ironically, the guy who had been killing it for years, he gets elected majority leader in the House. Now he's majority leader. I become the General Laws chair. That bill gets sent to General Laws Committee like it always has. I put it out first week, first introductory hearing of committee. We hear the bill, vote on it the very next week, send it up. It goes through rules, also gets rocketed through there. Now it's on the floor, and the guy that's been killing it, he has no cover anymore to keep doing that. Okay. He has to bring it up for a vote. It leaves the House super early. And that, I think, made the difference in whether or not that got passed, because ultimately it did got passed at the very end of session. But if it had had a few weeks of delay in getting that far down the road, I'm not sure it would have gotten there. And so that's the difference between someone who is acting in good faith, someone who understands the process and the system and is working to make something happen. That's a bill that I worked on with our local grassroots, the Missouri Republican Assembly, who are some of the most dedicated conservative grassroots here in Southwest Missouri. They were, up in Jefferson City testifying on the bill, talking to legislators, working to get that passed. And so, that is a good example of the kind of action-oriented, representation that I try to always embody, and the work that I do in the legislature is working with local conservatives, working on key issues that we want to see get done, and understanding and utilizing the process to give those issues the absolute best chance, the absolute best pathway possible to get done. And you can look at the rest of my body of work over the last few years, and you can see very similar kind of both effort and results. We've cut the income tax in the state from 6% down to 4.7%, and that was done 0.1% at a time through the trigger system, which started over a decade ago, but had to be renewed multiple times over the years, and have voted for that and championed that every time that happened. If you remember the history of that, that was the big Democrat initiative back in the late 60s, early 70s. That was Governor Hearns that increased the income tax in Missouri from 4% to 6%. And that's really what unlocked a lot of the big government growth that we see today, is more resources flowing in to the state. And the only way that you can truly cut the budget, cut spending in Missouri, because we have a balanced budget requirement, we don't spend deficits like Washington, D.C. does, is by cutting the amount of resources that's going in to the state and giving the public more avenues to vote for people and vote for policies that will cut the budget as well.
What do you say? And I say this noting that there's, there are Republicans on a federal level and a state level that oftentimes find themselves fighting against, if you want to call it establishment or other Republicans when it comes to cutting spending, and there's a lot of internal, and that happens when you're the majority party. That becomes the struggle. One of the complaints that a lot of people have is how much over the years, like the spending has doubled.
Oh, yeah.
So, and they look to you and they're like, well, you've been there all this time. What's going on? So what's your answer to people that have those worries and those concerns?
Well, if you look at the drastic increase in spending that has occurred, the vast majority of it has been Medicaid expansion. If you'll recall, Medicaid expansion went
yes.
through in 2020.
That was an initiative petition.
It was an initiative petition. It's in the Constitution now. And what that did to the budget is it doubled the Medicaid program from a $10 billion program to a $20 billion program. It's now 40% of the state budget.
So when people talk about the doubling of the budget over whatever 10 years, I think we hear that often.
It was around 29 billion. It's
Mm-hmm.
now around 49-50 billion. So not quite double.
So how much of that almost doubling? I mean, you gave the numbers.
Yeah,
but
like
I'm not
half.
doing
About,
the
like
okay, so
over half of that is just Medicaid
wow,
expansion.
Okay.
And then, of course, we've had inflation, which hits the state just like anything else. We've had a significant amount of inflation, and then you just have the natural, growth pressure of the economy. And this is why it's so important to cut taxes. And of course, we were so overtaxed. That ironically, cutting taxes has also increased the budget because for every dollar in tax cuts, we've had $2.5 new of revenue as the economy has grown. Because keep in mind, like the overall tax burden has declined by almost 1.5% over that same period of time that the budget has doubled. And then double is really the wrong word, but it has increased by 75% or something like that. Now, also keep in mind that there's two pieces to the budget. There's the general revenue, which is actually money that comes from Missourians that's raised here locally in the state, and then there's federal money. The federal money is about 80% of the budget, roughly. Not quite. 75%. So a lot of this is federal pass-through money, and so a lot of the rest of that increase is just this tide of federal money that comes into the state that the legislature has very little control over. Mostly has to be administered and spent according to the federal guidelines that exist for that.
What percentage, and I know roughly, but I think it is always a shock to people who don't know this, what percentage of the budget do you all actually have control over?
Yeah, it's just a little over 25% is about all the budget.
And so the rest of it is mandated, federal government mandated spending?
Yeah, and, we can try to nibble around the edges with these programs. Sometimes there's a little bit of discretion in how they're administered. Like there's discretion over maybe how frequently you require people to sign up for a program to like renew their eligibility for a program or something like that. That's why whenever you have a new Republican administration come into office, they always accuse them of kicking 100,000 people off of Medicaid or something like that. Well, all they did was require people to sign up and prove eligibility who had not had to do so in a long time.
We're talking with State Senator Curtis Trent running for re-election. We're going to take a real quick break and then have some final thoughts with you. And as I said, we're going to hit a number of the candidates throughout the week. And they will be, of course, we always have the podcast section, but they'll also be in the election section. So you can share these if you'd like to, go back and listen to them later, or listen to them again if you'd like to. Some more with Curtis Trent next. I'm Nick Reed. Running for re-election on the ballot next Tuesday. We have sample ballots sponsored by Brad Pistole, host of Save Money Radio at KSGF.com. Many of you will be choosing whether or not to, realistically re-elect, though it is the primary, State Senator Curtis Trent. Is there, as we've noted, there's so many different messages going on out there, and anytime there's a primary, the other, it's always battling over who's more conservative, and that's just pretty standard practice. Is there anything out there that you find yourself really fighting back against in terms of messaging?
No, I mean, most of the messaging, at least that I see, and like I said, I'm on the ground knocking doors. Like I'm not like I have watched less TV, listened to less radio, and I'm not a big radio or TV listener anyway. But being out there and talking to people just consumes so much of my time that I'm only kind of half aware of all the different messaging and noises and stuff that's going on out there. But like you said, I think that these races are always a referendum on the incumbent, and I think that like the standard campaign school 101 thing in a race like this is that you try to get to the right of whoever the incumbent is, and like that's your sweet spot.
No one's ever in a Republican primary saying, "I'm the moderate one."
Right. No, absolutely. Well, if they do, it doesn't tend to go well for them, which again is why I say you gotta look at people's actions over words, because the incentive to say the right words is so intense right now that I think you should look at the record instead to determine what somebody will actually do. Right. And I think my record shows. We've talked a little bit about taxes. I had the bill to repeal the capital gains tax, which is the first state in the nation to do that. A particularly bad tax. It taxes income that's already been taxed, and it taxes risk taking and entrepreneurship. Which means you're going to get less of those things. And I've worked on protecting people's property rights. I've worked on, of course, pro-life issues. Protecting the unborn. I have worked on protecting people from squatters. Again, kind of a property rights type issue, a law and order type issue. We were able to get truth in sentencing done this year, which trues up the amount of time sentenced to the amount of time served. Again, law and order bill I worked on for 4 years. And so kind of if you go through the body of work, I'm very much an ideologue. Like I believe in freedom and a Republican form of government, small R republicanism form of government, very much in the vein of John Locke and the founders. I believe strongly in that form and mode of government and how it works. And I also believe very deeply in Adam Smith's line of economic freedom. I think freedom is the secret sauce which has made America the exceptional country that it is. Russia, Africa, these are territories that have vast amounts of natural resources. China has lots of people. If you look around the globe, there was a book called Guns, Germs, and Steel. That was written back probably 25, 30 years ago now, that basically postulated that societies fail or succeed based on natural resources and population, all these kind of things. But our experience in the world shows that is not necessarily true. You have plenty of places that have population and resources that are essentially failed states, failed economies. Sure, right. And you have places, like a Singapore or Taiwan or something, that have very little population, very little resources, natural resources, and yet they're extremely successful. And America, of course, we have vast amounts of natural resources and territory. We have a large population. But the thing that sets us apart from the rest of the world is our system of freedom. And as Reagan said back in the 60s, the time for choosing is not ended. It's still now. Are we going to continue to be a free society, the kind of society that our founders intended for us to be? Are we going to know the liberties that they meant for us to have? or are we going to turn toward the mandamis, the communism of the world? Are we going to turn toward the AOCs, the socialism of the world? Are we going to turn toward the systems of government and the systems of economic organization that have proven to fail time and time again? And Missouri has to make that decision, and as well. And Missouri making that decision, Texas making that decision, New York making that decision, all those things are going to matter in the outcome of what decision America overall makes. The strength of the conservative movement in the world is still in the Midwest, the South and the Midwest of the United States. We have the population, the resources. We have that we've been resistant to the ideological changes, to the to the propagandizing of the world, to these left-wing ideas. And so, if America is to remain what it was intended to be, and if we are to continue to spread human liberty throughout the world, it has to happen here first.
Senator Curtis Trent, appreciate your time, and I'm sure one way or another we'll talk to you again in the future.
No doubt. It's great to be here. Thank you.
All right, you bet, Curtis Trent, everyone. Again, he is a current state senator running for re-election. You'll know it if you're in his district because of the mail. But we do also have those sample ballots up at KSGF.com, sponsored by Brad Pistole, host of Safe Money Radio.
Springfield's Talk 1041, the first alert forecast from Ozarks' first meteorologist Tom Schmidt, sponsored by J&S Automotive. An extreme heat warning is in effect from now until Tuesday morning. A heat advisory also remains in effect until Tuesday night. Today we'll see sunny skies with a high near 99 and heat index values as high as 107. Tonight mostly clear with a low around 76. For your Tuesday, mostly sunny with a high near 98, heat index values as high as 106. And for Wednesday, partly sunny with a high near 93.
Looking at the calendar, so between 8 and 8:30 tomorrow, Lori Rook will be on. She, of course, is challenging incumbent State Senator Curtis Trent, whom just joined us a bit ago. If you missed any of it, of course, we'll have it in the podcast section and election section. So that'll give you a chance to hear both of those individuals. 6:30 to 7. 6:30 to 7. Yeah, Angela Romine, who is challenging incumbent Jamie Gregg, and he will be on Thursday from 6:30 to 7. And so that'll give you an opportunity to hear those two individuals.
And I put that in your must-read headlines.
And we continue, thank you, to understand 100%, get people like, are you guys going to talk about Amendment 5? Because you obviously can't listen all of the time.
I will say this. Okay, so Bishop filled in on Thursday, and Darren filled in on
Yes, this
Monday or
is where I was
Tuesday.
going.
Yes,
yeah.
okay, good. And they have done a great job sharing our podcast. But
perfect.
I do recommend that you go back and take a listen to those if you just want to hear like a large scope of both of those issues.
So hopefully that will provide you with some information that will help you make the decision. Wanted to mention the totally awesome people, Brookline Door Works. These have been, a company well known. They've been around since 1984, 43 years servicing all of us in the area. And not just residential, but business, and not just garage doors, but big bay doors, security gates. We have a security gate door or a security gate here. Many of you may work at locations that have that. One of the big highlights from Brookline Doorworks is the fact that they are utilized by area fire departments, specifically Springfield, I think some others as well, because, among other things, the quality of their work, they are on call 24/7, and not just for emergency folks, not just, firefighters or ambulance bays that have to make sure that those doors open, and that if something goes wrong, they have to have, it can't be 2 a.m. on a Saturday, they have got to get that thing fixed right away. But they also provide that service for residential. And so if it's an off time, a weekend, in the middle of the night, and you've got to get either in or out of your garage, but you can't because of a broken spring, that 24/7 service is available to you as well. BrooklineDoorworks.com. You can also find them under Nick's endorsements at KSGF.com. Congressman Burleson joining us this morning. How do you do, sir?
I'm doing good. Good morning.
Excellent. That's always very good to hear. I imagine I probably know where you're going to come from when it comes to this, but, we played audio earlier from one of the co-chairs of the Democrat Socialists of America fully acknowledging, we want to abolish Congress. We want to get rid of prisons. We want to get, these aren't things, in fact, these aren't things they say they want to do. These are things they say we are going to do this. And while the Democrat continues to essentially dismiss their goals and what it is they are looking to do by simply saying, well, we have a big tent. The fact of the matter is it's the establishment that keeps losing seats to the Democrat Socialists of America. So they are the ones who are taking over. What are your thoughts on all of this?
Yeah, it's crazy. We don't have members of the Republican Party that want to completely undo the American system, that want to turn us into, an entirely different frame of government. It's shocking, and I'm glad to see that there's some Democrats that are pushing back on this craziness. You see James Carville pushing back. I've seen some other, like I think Jon Stewart, some other people, obviously Bill Maher. So it's good that you're seeing some people that have a head on their shoulders that are at least calling this for what it is, which is just absolute insanity.
I think some of the unintentional, perhaps, marketing of these concepts is the characterization of them being radical, because I think young people like to think they're radical because it seems like it's new and it's cool, when in reality, these concepts are so antiquated. They are so worn out. They are so old school. They have been done over and over and over again. And, part of me just sort of, it's not really a cringe thing, but when I get it. And in terms of the concept of humanity and freedom, they are radical ideas against human freedoms and human rights, but they're not radical in terms of new, cutting edge. Man, we're the young people that have these new, fresh ideas. These are the oldest ideas in existence.
Yeah, that's a great point. That we we've tried all of these ideas before. And well, they weren't tried; they were thrust upon people.
Right.
Right. This is the American experiment. Experiment is the most modern, most cutting edge, most. I mean, I hate to use the word, but progressive
Right. No,
form of government, and it's a unique moment here. I mean, that's the fact that we, for once, have a type of government that really doesn't take away people's liberties and lets you, lets you continue to have, a government that belongs to you, that you have some say in, but at the same time can't go far in taking away that your rights, has limited power, and that power is divided and divested into different layers and different factions of government, so that not one entity has totalitarian rule. And so this is, to me, this is the most
modern
amazing form of government. Yeah, modern form of government. If you look back throughout the history of mankind, we've seen tyranny in the form of democracy. We've seen tyranny in the form of brute force, right? Might equals right. And then we've seen tyranny in the form of religious oppressive tyranny in Sharia law. And we're seeing that in modern day. And sadly, that's the one that's probably growing the fastest, and something that we should be more afraid of than anything. The fact, I really think that this is step one or step two in a three-step plan for the Democrats and the radical leftists to move us into a Sharia law nation.
Yeah. We're talking with Congressman Burleson. Did I see that you had posted thoughts on either Amendment 4 and or Amendment 5 in Missouri?
Yes.
Yeah. Would you mind sharing your thoughts on either one of those or both?
Yeah, I mean, Amendment 4 is pretty easy. I mean, democracy, as I said, is a type of tyranny. It can be direct democracy, unbridled democracy is a type of tyranny, as it's been said. I think it's Benjamin Franklin is once quoted as saying, "Democracy is two wolves and a sheep that have a vote for what the dinner is going to be," and so that's why we need to be careful. That's why we are a constitutional republic. The problem in Missouri is that we have allowed for we allow for a constitutional amendment to be ratified by just a 51% majority. So just a simple majority. And the result is that we have a constitution that I dare say most, like 99.9% of Missourians have not read. It's too big to read. It's almost a Bible. I mean, it's bigger than the Bible. So this is it's not a good thing. We treat the Constitution like most states have statutes, and you have lawmakers that you elect who have no real authority over some very fundamental aspects of Missouri, what should be Missouri law. So this just kind of puts things into a proper perspective and says that you can still change the Constitution, but the threshold needs to be raised, and you can't trample on these minority districts. So the whole state has to have buy-in. You're raising the bar just barely, but you're also leaving in place the referendum that allows for you to change the statutes. So if you want to change the statutes with a simple 51% majority, that's still in place. But if you want to change the Constitution, which we should have more respect for, then I think that we need to raise the threshold. Now, they could raise it all the way to what the United States government threshold is, which is 3/4, but that's not what they did. They did a very modest adjustment and said, you have to get 51%, but from all of the congressional districts around the state of Missouri, which I think is still a pretty low bar to meet. And so as a result, you're not going to get all these crazy leftist ideas that keep getting put on the ballot, right? So things like the Green New Deal was basically passed in Missouri, and it was sold, as this, amazing, wonderful thing without all of the negatives. You had complete, you had a massive, like PETA type bill that was passed all under the name of stopping puppy mills, but it really was to go after all forms of animal agriculture, and that was passed under a simple majority because you can fool the voters when you've got millions of dollars and you have candy-like ballot language. So this is the kind of stuff that we continually have. Missouri is by and large a pro-life state, and yet they were able to pass language, leftists were able to pass language that basically banned your lawmakers from having any reasonable restrictions on abortions, even for the health and safety of the mother. That's Amendment 4. That's why I support Amendment 4. Amendment 5 is pretty simple, and I'll be succinct. People are saying, oh, if we pass Amendment 5, the legislature might be able to raise taxes on sales tax or consumption tax. Well, my response is, okay, so what you're telling me is worst case scenario is we end up with a fair tax. That's worst case. Best case scenario is that the legislature does nothing, which I always bet on the nothing. Like, if you want to take a good bet on your lawmakers not doing a thing, because it's harder for them to do things, and they typically don't get things done. So the truth is, worst case scenario is you end up with a fair tax, which is that you have no real gain in taxation. It's just being shifted to consumption. Best case scenario is you have a slow, complete elimination of the income tax over a period of time. And I would bet on that being the case.
I was reading this morning earlier this story regarding how Texas is the big economic powerhouse, and while you have some states like Florida and others that are red states, more conservative, that have high population growth and a huge draw, Texas is firing on all cylinders, and not only is it getting more people, but it's growing exponentially as well, and that average GDP is increasing, and there's just like everything is firing off, and the reasons they listed as responsible for that, number one was no state income tax as part of their form of taxation, and it's just no coincidence that all of these states that are the states people, including businesses, want to go to are states in which the form of taxation is one that lacks a state income tax.
Yeah, I mean, Texas is booming. Tennessee is booming, and Tennessee is not a sunshine state. It doesn't have any better geography than the state of Missouri. And I think that Tennessee is a great comparison to this state, and we need to be asking the questions: why are we not growing at the same rate that Tennessee is growing economically? And adjust accordingly. I mean, Tennessee has no income tax. Tennessee is a right to work state, and so I think that we need to really focus on tax reform. I also think that the legislature, after they accomplish fixing the income tax, they really need to do something about property taxes.
Yeah.
I think that's eating most people alive right now. I mean, especially on affordability. When you talk about, the price of things have gone up, but I think the basic things that's eating into people's discretionary spending is when you have the county, which hasn't done hardly anything, hasn't grown. They're not building more roads and demanding more money. They're not building more schools and demanding more money. They're simply saying, oh, the value of your home has inflated. We want double the money.
Yeah.
Right? And so how many of us are all paying twice as much in our property taxes? And then the insurance company says to you, well, now you've got to pay twice as much in insurance. I don't know about you, Nick, but my insurance premiums to for my home and for my cars and my property taxes is eating me alive.
Yeah.
I know that everyone is feeling this.
My monthly mortgage payment is 33% higher now than it was several years ago because of that, because of the insurance and the property taxes. It's crazy. And I know, yeah, I mean, you and I aren't the only ones. I think just about every homeowner definitely recognizes
And
it.
do you think you're getting twice as much government services?
I'd almost pay twice as much to have half as much government, but it's just to have less government. Of course, I'm being facetious, but well, listen, I appreciate your time this morning. Thanks for holding a little bit late. I had forgotten we had State Senator Curtis Trent on as we're hitting some of the candidates this week, and so I know I had talked to you.
And I have endorsed Curtis.
Mm.
You know, I think he's doing a fantastic job, and so he replaced me coming in, and there's I think he's done a tremendous job, and I think he's got my vote for sure.
Congressman Burleson, appreciate it, sir, and we will talk with you soon.
Thank you.
All right, you bet. Springfield's Talk 104.1. I'm Nick Reed. Sarah Myers, everyone.
Thank you, Springfield Livestock Marketing Center. They've got a busy week out there this week. Today they will have their 10 a.m. cow and bull sale. Tomorrow they will host a 10 a.m. dairy sale and a Holstein steer special. Wednesday they will have their weekly 9 a.m. feeder sale. And we will be back out there broadcasting the Wednesday Road Show out at Mingles. And then they will wrap up their week with a monthly Friday horse sale at 5 p.m. I do also want to mention they have AC out there. Good AC. Now, if you've been to other auction houses in the past, you know that AC, it can be a little iffy, but not at Springfield Livestock. To check out other upcoming sales, visit their website, springfieldlivestock.com. And of course, you can find all of their contact information under the Sarah's Endorsements tab at ksgf.com.
Ozark Empire Fair coming up. You can win Ultimate Fair Package. Tickets to every grandstand show, plus meet and greets to Sawyer Brown and a 4-pack to the Kids Monster Truck Challenge before the Outlaw Monster Trucks. Register now at ksgf.com, where you can also find sample ballots sponsored by Brad Pistole, host of Safe Money Radio. Well, we knew this was coming weeks after the Obama Presidential Center's star-studded opening in Chicago. A subcontractor who previously claimed his company was stiffed by the Obama folks for nearly $4 million has had to shut down operations and lay off 25 union workers. This is the Democrat Party really looking out for the working man. Mike Owen, the owner of Chicago-based Adamson Plumbing Contractors, revealed that the financial fallout of the Obama library folks refusing to pay their bills forced the company to abandon about half a dozen other construction jobs and left it on the verge of collapse. Owen described the shutdown as a painful decision he believed was necessary in order to save the company from bankruptcy. It is remarkable that there is still anyone out there who believes that this is a party that cares about the working person, that they will utilize. And these are really folks, and they really sold the idea we're helping minority-owned businesses, and then they just refuse to pay them, pushing them to the point of bankruptcy. The Democrat Party 2026. Springfield's Talk 104.1. Welcome to the show, everyone. My name is Nick Reed, streaming live KSGF.com, the KSGF app. Ozarks Elder Law, it's about planning, it's about being responsible. I know we have utilized their services with our family, and it's something that you need to revisit every so often, particularly if you move from one state to another. Every state has different rules. Every state has different laws. Missouri, for example, there are 5 different ways your future nursing home care can be covered, but you have to make sure well ahead of time that you have the proper paperwork done, legally done, as you get closer to needing the nursing home care. Then you slowly lose those options to where maybe you don't have any. Or maybe you're in Missouri, but what about nursing homes in Kansas, right across the border, or in Arkansas? These are all different scenarios. And so that's why if you haven't ever done it, you haven't done it in a while, or you have moved from another state, you need to have a consultation. And it's not just nursing home care, but power of attorney, whether it's financial, it's medical power of attorney, wills, trust. Which one do you need? Do you need any of them? Have that customized sit-down consultation that is a courtesy from Ozarks Elder Law, 10 area locations, and what they'll do is go over your specific situation and say, here's what you need to do, here's what it'll cost, one cost, and then you decide if you want to do it or not. It is as simple as that. OzarksElderLaw.com. Also under Nick's endorsements at KSGF.com. Had a question that came in on the Pyramid Roofing Company text line. Can Democrats in Missouri request Republican ballots in the August primary when there are no Democrats competing in the primary? And then thanks for the interview with Curtis Trent and Congressman Burleson this morning. The answer to that is yes. Every state runs things differently. Some states you have to be registered with a political party, and you are only given access to those ballots of which you have designated yourself with your county or with your state, whatever level does it. Missouri doesn't work that way. You only get one ballot, but when you walk up, if you think about it, during a primary, they ask you what ballot you want. And there's always Republican, Democrat, sometimes they'll be Libertarian, sometimes they'll be Independent. And so anyone who's a Democrat can request a ballot. In fact, when Senator Claire Bear McCaskill was running for re-election, her last successful run, her campaign felt that she could not win unless they interfered in the Republican primary and picked what they felt was the weakest candidate. And there was a congressman, Todd Aiken, and because of comments that he made on abortion that were just pounded into the ground, that Democrats, of course, used to make it sound like he was some nutcase, the Claire McCaskill campaign had, during the primary, her Democrat voters request Republican ballots to get him the nominee. Or the nomination. And he did end up getting the nomination, and she bragged about in her book. This is how corrupt and unethical these people are. She wrote a book. She bragged about altering the Republicans, or what she felt was enough of her people voting for the Republican to put before her the candidate that in her own acknowledgement was maybe the only one she could beat because she was so bad at being a U.S. senator. That I think she said she shotgunned a beer in celebration or something. She wrote about it in her book. Now, imagine having so little dignity and so little shame. Instead of running on your record and winning because of your results, you not only acknowledge that you felt you only had a chance to win by having your opponent be what you saw as the weakest candidate, you interfered in the Republicans' election in order to alter the outcome to your favor, and then bragged about it instead of being embarrassed. See, this rigging of elections, this has gone back several years beyond what I think a lot of people believe. And I've said it before and I'll say it again. If Democrats spent half the energy they do on figuring out how to trick people into voting for them, spent half that energy on actually trying to do a good job at their job, we might be a better country for it. Before we go to news, Aust Family Racing, David Aust is with us this morning, and I saw a posting you made. It sounds like you had a pretty good weekend. Of course, for those of you that don't know, we're one of the sponsors of the vehicles and the racing team, and so on Mondays after a weekend of racing, David joins us to give us an update on how things went. So run down it for us, if you would.
All right. Well, if you guys remember, a couple weeks ago, one of the cars overheated.
Yes.
So we had to address that this week. Now, a lot of people don't know, but there's only a few reasons why our cars will overheat, and the majority of it's our radiator.
All right.
It's usually because it's full of dirt and gravel.
Mm.
So usually we have to take the radiator out every couple of weeks and soak it overnight in this solution that we got, and then kind of bang it on the ground to get all the rocks out of it. Whenever we overheated, our car was at 250. Well, most of your cars you're driving on the road is either got 192 or 198 thermostat in it.
Mm-hmm.
So we're well over that. All right. So anyway, we did take care of that issue, and we did have a pretty good weekend. Steve in the 42 started fourth in his heat and finished fourth. That put him starting fourth in the feature. And about halfway through, he broke an axle and still finished fourth, if that makes any sense to you.
Sure.
Well, with it being 105 out,
Yeah.
I mean, there's a lot of folks stay home.
Got it.
So the car count was pretty low. So anyway,
Still sounds impressive.
it is still fun. It's still, I mean, every weekend something else comes. You know what I mean? I mean, if it can happen, it does happen. If it doesn't happen, just wait a little while. It probably will.
Well, yeah, go ahead.
So Andy, of course, he's in the 72B mod. He started on the pole and ended up second in his heat, and that started him fourth in the feature, and he got up to second.
Mm.
But by the time he got around second, the first place guy stepped out pretty far and he couldn't catch him. So we did have a pretty good weekend, other than just miserable heat.
Yeah. Well, that's awesome. And congratulations to the guys on all of that. As the weeks that you all have been racing and you talk about all these problems, to me it sounds like there's two sports, the racing itself and then just trying to keep your vehicles functioning. It almost sounds miserable at times.
Sometimes it can be.
Yeah.
And it can be expensive. I mean, think about it. The car was at 250. Your car's on the street, well, everybody's car's on the street, overheats at like 200. And we're flipping out trying to figure out what's wrong with it, right?
Yeah.
We hit 250 and still didn't blow the motor up, but added a little bit of stress to us because that is a lot of money if it does go kaboom. So,
but you just kept
do you
going
guys know
anyway?
anything? Yeah, well, that's why he pulled off and he didn't finish.
Got it. Okay, got it. Now, what were you going to ask?
Do you guys know what MRP is?
I don't
know.
I don't think so.
Okay, well, it's an app you can get on your phone.
Oh, okay.
It's called MRP. It's My Race Pass.
Oh, okay.
It's got every racetrack, well, almost every racetrack in the United States on it. It shows every driver. It shows every heat race. It shows not like video, but just numbers, right? It'll show, on My Race Pass that Steve started fourth, ended fourth, then started fourth in the feature, and then, finished fourth. It'll show all that for every track, or almost every track in the United States. That's cool. And most tracks do have it. So,
all right. Yeah, I'll have to check that out to keep in the loop. Now, do you have anything next weekend?
Next weekend, we're going to go to Nevada.
Okay.
2 weeks from now, Nevada, on August 8th, they have a big race for Midwest mods. So instead of being like 300 to win, it's 1,963 to win. And they come up with that number because Nevada started racing or opened that track in 1963.
Got it.
So 1963 to win. So we're going to go up there and see if we can take some of that money home.
All right. Well, good luck to you, and then we'll get updated on Monday. Hopefully good news and vehicles that function well enough to make it across the finish line.
Well, hopefully. So, hey, can I mention something real quick?
Yeah, please do.
Okay, so I'd like to thank That's a Wrap in Springfield for doing all of our cars and trailers and stuff. You can call him at 417-848-7464. He does all fleet vehicles, boats, cars, houses, really. A lot of people wrap their inside of their babies' bedrooms. And they do all kinds of stuff. And then we did lose a race car driver a few weeks ago named Scott Campbell.
Oh.
And there's a benefit for him at Bear Sports Grill in Republic tomorrow. 10% of the daily proceeds goes to his memorial, and they're also having an auction. So there's different stuff from baseball tickets to Lucas Oil tickets to all kinds of different things they're giving away. So.
All right. Yeah, we'll make sure to get that info up on our social media as well. All right, David Oz Family Racing. Thank you, sir. Good luck in Nevada, and then we'll talk to you next Monday.
All right, sounds good.
All right, perfect. Have a good one, sir. Now the latest news update.
And the first alert forecast from Ozarks First meteorologist Tom Schmidt, sponsored by St. Clair of the Ozarks Home Improvements. An extreme heat warning is in effect from now until Tuesday morning. A heat advisory also remains in effect until Tuesday night. Today we'll see sunny skies with a high near 99, heat index values as high as 107. Tonight mostly clear with a low around 76. For your Tuesday, mostly sunny with a high near 98 and heat index values as high as 106. And taking a look at Wednesday, partly sunny with a high near 93.
I do want to talk about something that happened last week while I was on vacation. I actually make a point to, for the most part, not follow the news because I don't want to find something when I'm gone for a week on Tuesday that I'm like, oh, I really want to talk about that. And then I feel so compelled that I'm talking about it a week later. But every so often there are things that do pop up and I think, I want to hold this over. And so I had sent an email myself, and then I actually found printed off at my desk when I got here
Oh,
this morning.
I did a little show prep
I
for
know.
you.
Well, it's funny because I was just saying, I think during the past week, there was only one thing that I was like, oh, I do want to talk about this, even though it will be sort of, quote, outdated. And then when I came in, you had it printed off right
There
there.
you go.
I know.
And
It's just amazing.
in fairness, there's also been just a couple of other updates since I printed all that out.
Yeah, and so if I miss any of the updates here in the conversation, because the last I saw is that Springfield Police Association, they're like, don't boycott this place,
Yes,
because
yeah.
they are the classy people in this conflict, if you want to call it that, as opposed to the owners of Druff's Diner, and this all started with a posting that was made by the Springfield Police Officers Association. Now, this isn't the Springfield Police Department. This isn't the government entity. This is the Police Officers Association, and they made a social media post. Now, Druff's it's essentially downtown. It's a restaurant down there, and it's been there. I remember when it opened. It's been there for some time now, and I remember not long after it opened going in, but for some reason I think I didn't eat, and I don't know why that was. But their menu is largely grilled cheese focused and soup and beer and stuff like that. So I don't know whether it's any good or not. It must be doing something right because they have been there several years now. And they had posted a sign right by the entry, the door, so you see it, that said, all law enforcement officials do not enter without a lawful judicial search warrant. So it's saying if you don't have a search warrant, you are not allowed to come in here as a police officer. So the Springfield Police Officers Association took a picture of it and posted it on social media with the following message. Druff's Diner, instead of overreacting, we'll go ahead and give you the chance to publicly explain whether this was a rogue employee or a poorly communicated new policy of yours that doesn't actually mean what it appears on its face to mean. Or if your potential customers should be concerned that the ones they trust to protect downtown aren't welcome in your establishment to keep them safe while they're dining. If so, we'll be happy to help spread the word. SPOA President Justin Hollingsworth said he was the one who made the Facebook post that alluded to Druff's policy on police officers. In a phone interview on July 23rd with the Springfield Daily Citizen, he said the sign is pretty public. There are a lot of eyes that get laid on that sign. Downtown brings in thousands of people on a weekend, so making such a public statement about the state of law enforcement being welcome in their business, it seems appropriate to ask for a public response and a public explanation. Druff's owner, Kenny McMahon, said the sign has been on the restaurant's door for more than 6 months. Quote, there was like nonprofit groups going to every business when all this ICE stuff started at the beginning of 2026, he said. They handed out a bunch of paperwork, so that was one of the things in the paperwork. McMahon said he believes the sign was misunderstood by whoever posted it to SPOA's Facebook. This wasn't about refusing service to police officers, but making sure that Druff's customers would know that they are safe and that the restaurant would not allow law enforcement agencies to conduct searches without warrants. It's accountability. Yeah, it's literally the law, I mean. I don't know what else to say except for we've never turned anyone away. Well, let's address that. Let me tell you something that I just think is icky. When people with a sign or some sort of digital posting make some really strong we'll show them statement, but when they're asked about it, play the, well, no, we didn't, golly gee, we meant nothing by it at all. I don't know why anyone would think that. Grow a pair. If you're going to try to make some sort of bold statement, these people that do it whenever they don't actually have to answer for it, when they're a faceless individual, when, whether they're posting on social media or taping up a sign and, they really feel like the tough guy until someone questions them about it. And all of a sudden they're this, golly gee willikers, Mr. Wilson, I didn't know what it meant. I just thought it was trying to make sure everyone understood that we obeyed the law and it wasn't a bunch of paperwork. We didn't really mean anything by it. I mean, it's just, it's gross and it's pathetic. I just can't stand this. really tough guy act with messaging until they're questioned about it, and the crumbling, innocent little, we didn't really mean anything by it. I'd much rather you stand by your convictions and be a coward. Now, personally, I'd rather not have any of this bigotry displayed whatsoever, but free country, and if you want to be a bigot in a form of anti-law enforcement, then you have every right to do so. Now, to this, and again, it's a cowardly thing. No, we just meant we make sure people follow the law here. First off, it flat out says, all law enforcement officials do not enter without a lawful judicial search warrant. It doesn't say anything about if you're on duty or if you are planning on arresting someone. This is just straight up saying, if you don't have some legal reason to be here, you're not welcome here. This BS of trying to claim, no, we never said that they couldn't come here to have lunch. That's exactly what you're saying. You're saying if you are in law enforcement, unless you are executing some sort of legal search and you have a legal warrant, then you are not welcomed here. That would include having lunch. The sign didn't say, unless you're just here to have lunch, does it? This is just this patheticness of being the big bully when you're not being questioned and you're surrounded by all of your like-minded woke individuals that are, yeah, we're really showing them. And then the moment they just crumble pathetically. If this was simply posting a sign that was as simple as just reiterating what the law is, why is this the only very specific aspect of law that you feel needs to be addressed? I mean, it's against the law to sexually assault someone in a restroom. Why don't you have a sign making sure that, hey, anyone, just so you know, if you plan on sexually assaulting someone in a restroom, you're not welcome here? Where's that sign? If you plan on walking out without paying, skipping on your bill, otherwise, in other words, stealing, where's the sign saying, don't bother coming here, you're not welcome? Are those just assumed? Why is then this one not assumed? It's pathetic. It's one-dimensional. It shows absolutely no intellectual depth. And I don't know the thing about it that, and the anti-law enforcement component obviously is the overriding problem here. I mean, this notion, like, I don't even know how these people think that this would play out anyway, what they're preventing. What do you think? Police just are any form of law enforcement, they're just walking into places and demanding to know who's there illegally to arrest them? I mean, how do you think these things work? This, I suppose, at the same time displays the complete and utter ignorance these people have about how the law works, about how immigration enforcement works. They really do genuinely, I think, believe their own disinformation campaigns that police are just running around picking up anyone who's brown. And if that were the case, and there's so many levels of stupid here, if you really believe that law enforcement is so corrupt that without any legal reason, without any legal justification, are just rounding people up, you think that that stupid sign is going to stop them from coming into your restaurant? Are you really that dumb? I suppose that question's somewhat rhetorical. Springfield's Talk 1041, I'm Nick Reed. Before we go to traffic here, I do want to note that as you can imagine, there were a lot of people that don't like to see such bigotry as was displayed against law enforcement by Druff's restaurant downtown, telling police that they weren't welcome there unless the only way that they were welcome to come in there, not for lunch, not to eat, not to do anything other than serve out some sort of official judicial warrant. And so, as you can imagine, a lot of people in Springfield, they actually like diversity, and people who don't necessarily get along should have access. And so they didn't like to see this sort of bigotry. And so they're like, we're not going to service that sort of place. The Springfield Police Officers Association is encouraging people, listen, if you like their food, eat there. We don't want people to boycott this place. And you know why? Because they are the better people. All of this actually boils down to that sign. It's pathetic, empty virtue signaling. And the side of the equation here that's supposed to be so awful and evil and bigoted, the Springfield Police Officers Association is demonstrating that they're actually quite the opposite. They are the mature, all-accepting individuals in this equation.
Springfield's Talk 1041, the first alert forecast from Ozarks First meteorologist Tom Schmidt, sponsored by J&S Automotive. An extreme heat warning is in effect from now until Tuesday morning. A heat advisory also remains in effect until Tuesday night. Today we'll see sunny skies with a high near 99 and heat index values as high as 107. Tonight mostly clear with a low around 76. For your Tuesday, mostly sunny with a high near 98 and heat index values as high as 106. And for Wednesday, partly sunny with a high near 93.
German police shot and killed a Muslim man who previously tried to join the Islamic State after he rammed a vehicle into Berlin's Pride Festival on Saturday, then attacked bystanders with a machete, leaving one person dead, several others injured. 21-year-old Abdul Balat shot and killed by police at the complex in Spandau. The Telegraph reported that Balot is a convicted terrorist who tried to join the Islamic State terror group. German authorities previously arrested him in Lebanon after accusing him of attempting to join the Islamic State in Syria and plotting a terrorist attack. Then he was returned to Germany, where, according to Die Welt, he was sentenced to 1 year and 10 months in prison for plotting a serious act of violence and threatening the state. Must have been such a shock to the people in the Pride Parade that a man from a culture that they embrace and celebrate wholeheartedly would come after them. Must have been very confusing because, of course, it's Christian nationalist that the LGBT community needs to greatly fear. You can't help but wonder if, like, how many Queers for Palestine were part of that Pride Parade. You cannot help people that don't want to help themselves. Democrats set to alter again the selection process of the nominee who will take on the Republican post-Trump. The Democratic National Committee panel on Friday voted to make South Carolina a state with a large black voting bloc their first presidential primary state, which is signaling that they have decided Kamala Harris will be the nominee. This is the same move that they made when Joe Biden was running for re-election. You know, Iowa has traditionally been the first caucus. New Hampshire has been the first primary, which their state law dictates they have to be the first one. Otherwise, they don't participate. So that's going to be a whole thing for them to have to deal with. When there was concern, there wasn't concern that Biden would not win the nomination as he was running for re-election, but they were concerned, the Democrats were concerned that he wouldn't necessarily get 100% of the vote, particularly with Jill Stein out there running, and you had Cornel West running, and then you had RFK Jr. running as a Democrat. And RFK Jr. was polling significantly enough not to beat Joe Biden, but to really cause potential concern among donors and amongst the base in terms of the electability of this guy running for re-election. Because, you know, generally speaking, when a president is running for re-election, you don't have any serious challengers at all within your own party. So they did a couple of things in order to try to rig the election. Every state they could, they had the Jill Steins, the Cornel West, black man, and RFK Jr. thrown off the ballots. They also moved South Carolina to be first because the black population was told by Senator James Clyburn of South Carolina, you vote for the old white guy. And they did it. And so the Democrat Party was banking on the fact that instead of in Iowa where Pete Buttigieg got first place, I think Biden maybe got third in Iowa, and he didn't do fantastic in New Hampshire either. But they didn't want that to happen again. So they said, you know what, South Carolina is now going to be number one, so that we can start off on, look how popular this guy is. Joe Biden running for re-election, no challenge. Now, of course, after all of that effort and all of the money spent and all of the problems rearranging the calendar caused, they ended up overthrowing him anyway, and just handpicking Kamala Harris. Now, there were a couple of other states that were up for potential firsts. One of them was Nevada. That was a potential contender to be moved up first. Now, they claim that, and this is hilarious, that they were too concerned about Nevada's ability to process election results quickly. Within the Democrat Party, of course. And so Nevada was not chosen as the first. I think there was some other state as well. I think that part of it Well, I think there may be a number of reasons for it, but ultimately, listen, this is a signal that the Democrat Party is going to arrange things so that Kamala Harris ends up getting the nomination. And I mean it 100%. I don't even know why they're bothering spending the money. After the overthrowing of the Democrat voters in Maine's choice of Graham Plattner and the Democrat voters' choice of Joe Biden for the presidency second time around, at this point, why are you even pretending that elections matter? You know how much money that costs? And they aren't exactly rolling in the dough. Hence, a New York Times piece. The Democrat Party is so short on cash that leaders at its headquarters have undertaken a new gambit to mask the severity of the problems, asking vendors not to send them any bills until after the midterm elections. The bookkeeping maneuver, which was described by 3 people briefed on it, is the latest sign of financial duress for the Democratic National Committee and its embattled leader as money troubles threaten to undercut Democratic momentum with 100 days until the midterms. At the center is Ken Martin, the 53-year-old party chairman who has found himself increasingly isolated, gripped by the fear that he will lose his job and relying on a vanishingly small circle of people he trusts, according to interviews with more than 24 Democrats, including current and former DNC officials and members. Mr. Martin's fraying nerves are showing. In a peak of frustration in early July, he threw his phone at the desk of a junior aide while upbraiding the person. The phone tossing incident resulted in a formal complaint to the DNC's Human Resources Department. I would love to know the gender of that person. I don't know what it is with these Democrats that continue to put people in leadership positions that throw things at people, that are physically violent with people. The individual officially chosen to replace Graham Plattner by the elites is a guy who has the same reputation as being physically abusive towards women. In one of the well-known incidents, he threw something at, I don't remember. Do you remember what it was he was said to have thrown at her?
Oh, I can't remember.
It may have been a phone. I mean, talk about a place for women to go to be abused and to be gaslit. The Democrat Party. Then you've got this story, townhall.com. The Democrat National Committee, cash pour ahead of the 2026 midterm election, has made the risky decision to post its headquarters as collateral in exchange for a $15 million loan, according to a notice report. So they are so out of cash. Let's see if the New York Times reported these numbers. The New York Times, okay, so per the Times, Trump has a $400 million super PAC. The Republican National Committee is sitting on nearly $130 million. So collectively, between Trump's super PAC and the RNC, cash on hand, $530 million. The DNC is $2 million in debt. Is it any wonder that with such disjointed chaos, you've got the Democratic National Socialists that are infiltrating and taking over the party? Springfield's Talk 104.1, I'm Nick Reed. Pyramid Roofing Company text line. Morning, Nick and Sarah. I think it was a full water bottle. Sarah confirmed that as well.
Yes, it was a water bottle.
The white man Democrat that the establishment has chosen to replace Graham Plattner, among other accusations, is that he assaulted a female colleague with a water bottle.
Well,
so keeping it classy.
I'm glad that I didn't say what I originally thought it was, because in my mind, I thought that it was a wine bottle. That's why I didn't say it. I had to look it up first.
And what a difference it is between some sort of cheap plastic Gatorade bottle or if it was a Stanley.
Yeah.
I mean,
I don't know. What type of water bottle?
Because you think, a water bottle. And you get hit with Stanley or something like that. That's
it's going to leave a mark.
Sarah Myers, everyone.
Thank you. The Pyramid Roofing Company. Unfortunately, they are still dealing with supply shortages. Now, the big shortage that Josh mentioned was gutter material and some brands of shingles. Now, the last update on new roof installs, Josh said it's between 4 to 6 weeks for that install, and then gutters are about a week to 2 after that. So just a heads up on that. Josh really wanted to be very transparent on the current wait times when I spoke with him. But if you do experience a roof emergency, the Pyramid team, they still offer free roof inspections and emergency tarping services, plus discounts for our military and first responders on new roof installs. If it is time to have the Pyramid team out to your home, reach out to Josh today. You can find all of their contact information under the Sarah's Endorsements tab at ksgf.com.
Now, I know we just came out of a break, but I do want to go ahead and play the final break of the hour, so I have a full segment uninterrupted to play some audio of Sophie Cunningham, who the left is going to target. I mean, she's a white girl in the WNBA anyhow, but most of the scorn has always been focused on Caitlin Clark. But Sophie Cunningham was asked on ESPN about boys being allowed to play in girls' sports, and she's like, no. It was essentially her answer. So, of course, there have been the follow-up questions about, the poor trans community. And I want to play her response. Incidentally, she also, after those such controversial comments, Adidas released a customized Sophie Cunningham sneaker that sold out in record time. I think that tells us something. Sophie Cunningham, she plays WNBA, and she is an Indiana Fever player. She's also a Missouri girl, Columbia. She's been in sports all her life, and she's not a political person, but she was asked, I think it was on ESPN, her thoughts on boys being allowed to play with girls in sports, and she was opposed to it in terms of fairness and protecting girls, whether it's in the locker room or on the court. Of course, as you can imagine, this immediately results in people on the left attempting to destroy her, and then reporters demanding answers, giving her an opportunity to fix her answer, and this is how that went.
On that same vein, in that story with ESPN, you talked about wanting to protect young girls who shouldn't have to go against biological men. Just can you expand your viewpoint on that?
I mean, I think I said what I said. I think it's kind of common sense. And I think I'll always believe in that. I think it's really important to protect children. And that's little girls who are also involved in that category. And so I stand on what I said, and I always believe that.
Yeah. Do you see your advocacy on that, like, taking any form going forward?
You know, I don't know. I'm not a very political person, but I do have beliefs. I have morals, and I'll always stand on those and be true to who I am. And I think people are going to take it how they want to take it, but I've never even really said anything about that. And so when it comes just to protecting young girls in sport and women in sport, I feel very strongly about that. I think that's why you have Title IX. That's why you have some of the greats in women's sports. If Title IX and women's sports weren't protected, then you wouldn't hear about any type of women in sport. And so I think in the future, it's just really important to protect.
Do you think, I guess, along the line like that, it goes against perhaps, some people might say, hey, for the trans community, this could be something that could come back on us or be targeted against us. Like, how do you, I guess, view that sort of critique?
You know, like I said, I extend love, and I don't dislike anyone. Like, I think there is room for absolutely everyone here, and I think there's room to love everyone. And I truly think when you get people in the same room and you have conversations, you actually have a lot in common with a lot of people. And so I'm there to love, but I'm also there to love biological women, and I think that there are rights that need to be protected. And like I said, I'm going to stand true to that. I'll never falter in my beliefs in that, but I have never once said I hated the trans community. Like I said, I think there's space.
All right, so that's her response. And let me tell you part of what, and I don't have time to play it, but there was a video put out by the company XXXY Athletics, which is about protecting girls' sport. And it was just girl after girl thanking her for standing up for them, for noting that, you know, she could have kept her mouth shut given how much she has to lose, and thanking her for standing up for them. Part of what I like about her, you just sense this confidence. Like, this is what she believes. There's some people when they give it, you kind of like, oh, I hope they word it right. And I don't know, there's just something about the way that she said, you really do sense. She just knows what's right is right and what's wrong is wrong. She's not going to budge from it. And she made a comment that I think we know, but we've maybe failed to appreciate that, you know, this is the entire reason for Title IX. And if it weren't for Title IX, we wouldn't be talking about women athletes at all. I mean, that's why the WNBA concept or any girls' sports concept exists, because Title IX's entire purpose was based off the common sense understanding that there are massive differences physically between boys and girls and men and women. And so if women are going to have any opportunity to excel in sports, they have to be able to play in a category of other women and men in men. And so the fact that Title IX was used in order to say, oh, well, if it's whatever you identify as, completely defeats the entire purpose of it. And I think that recognition oftentimes gets tossed to the side. So she had a sellout of sneakers, Adidas, less than 24 hours, her personal line. And the reason that this is significant is because it was after her comments were made. And this is I believe this is significant in the same way Sydney Sweeney was significant in not worshiping at the woke altar, that it not only didn't hurt the businesses that were associated with her, but it potentially even helped them. And so increasingly, because of people like Sydney Sweeney and in this case Sophie Cunningham, it is signaling to these companies that all of these loudmouth virtue signalers that have you concerned about losing business because of your association with people like this is nothing but fear. Glenn Beck's next. I'm Nick Reed.